What's going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, back with another champion spotlight video for Raid Shadow Legends. Today we're going to be talking about Countess Lix. She's a brand new champion, and hopefully by the end of this video you will know exactly where you should be using her for your account, how you should gear her, and all the essential information you would need about this champion. Let's get right into it and start by talking about this champion's aesthetics. So as we can see from Countess Lix, she is a demon spawn legendary attack based champion, and she looks absolutely amazing. We have awesome wings on this champion. We have a light green, kind of neon green glow on this champion. Overall, she's a fantastic addition to the demon spawn family. She has kind of metallic vibes, a little bit like Krutroxa. However, it's much more angel and demon based than the other champions for sure. Now that we've gone over her looks, let's talk about her skills, what her abilities look like, and so you have a better understanding on how her kit actually works. So first here we do have the A1 ability, Festering Caress, attacks one enemy 2 times, having a 30% chance of placing a 25% weaken for 2 turns. So let's take a look at what this A1 actually looks like. Okay, so pretty decent, nothing too special. We do have a nice animation on that A1 that's also green. I do like how it slightly matches the aesthetic. Let's go over the A2, Mire of Misery. Attacks all enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 75% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Each hit also has a 75% chance of decreasing the enemy's turn meter by 10%. There's definitely a lot here in this skill. Really cool, lots of turn meter manipulation, as well as that decreased speed buff that is very strong throughout this game. So let's take a look at what Mire of Misery actually looks like. Okay, so once again we do have another like green acidic effect coming out. I really do like it. It is pretty unique to my knowledge. Other than any other champion, we do have Vergum Karu kind of vomits on its enemies. This is a little bit different, and I kind of like that. Moving into the A3, Time Dilation. Attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing block cooldown skills for 2 turns. Also decreases cooldowns of all ally skills except this champion's by 1 turn. So it's a little bit further, and I think in this kit so far, in my opinion, is looking like a Void Legendary. There's lots of multi-uses in the skills here, and I think it's really cool, especially for a crowd control champion, even though she is actually attack based. So we do have the block cooldown, which is a huge nuisance to actually have land for your enemy team. And the really cool thing is it also decreases the cooldown of all ally skills by 1 turn, even though it doesn't apply to Countess Lix herself. I do really like this. It's not game changing by any means. It's not a full reset of the skills. That would definitely be a bit too strong for a non-void legendary, especially one that also accompanies block cooldown skills with this champion. However, I do think it's a nice ability to kind of get skills for your other champions circulating once again, simply by having this legendary on your team. So let's take a look at what Time Dilation actually looks like. So this is a really cool purple slam effect, definitely a fan of that. Now that we've seen that, let's go over the first passive here. Channel Woe fills this champion's turn meter by 5% each time an ally receives a debuff. So that's definitely a nice quality of life thing. However, I'm not really sure how I feel about that. If you're getting debuff, you're definitely in trouble. However, she can definitely negate some of the trouble you could be facing in the arena or in dungeon simply by getting that boost to this champion's turn meter. And it does seem like she was lagging a bit behind there on that 1-time speed, which I've never noticed before. That is quite funny. But it does seem like she can have an easier time cycling through her cooldowns if she does in fact get any debuffs placed on your team. So now that we've gone over that, let's go over this champion's base stats and the gear, how I would gear her. I did do a damage test. She can do a decent amount of damage. She's a bit harder to build for damage because she does have that low threshold of crit damage. But let's go over her base stats really quick. We have 17,175 health, 1,498 attack, 936 defense, 100 speed, which I definitely like. It's very healthy on the speed there. 15 crit rate, 50% crit damage that we were just talking about, 30 base resist, and 20 base accuracy. So like I said, if you wanted to kind of get rid of and forget about the accuracy and the debuffs, you can focus a bit on damage. I probably wouldn't recommend it unless you have very in-game gear, because that's going to fit the best if you just want to have fun with this champion, build her for full damage. Like I said, I tested it. She can one-shot quite a few champions, but in my opinion, it's not going to be the recommended build here. So first, let's talk about the accessories for this champion. I definitely recommend accuracy with speed substats on that banner roll. For the necklace, The main focus here is going to be accuracy for a substat, and I do actually encourage people to use crit damage on the necklace instead of a defensive stat. She does have pretty decent health, not that high defense, but I don't think it warrants actually stacking a defense necklace. I do want crit damage because we will get into that. Because as I just mentioned, she can do a fair bit of damage. She has rather high base attack for the amount of debuff she does offer, giving her more of a support role than an actual damage dealing role, which is how we're kind of going to approach this. As far as ring, this goes back to the neck once again. I do recommend attack with attack percentage. However, if you are struggling with survivability, your gear isn't the greatest, you can definitely go with an HP ring, HP percent, and maybe try to find some attack percent as well. For boots, I'm always going to recommend speed boots with crit damage, crit rate, or accuracy as a substat. For a chest piece, you want accuracy there. If you can already meet the accuracy requirement simply with the banner, you can elect to go with HP, defense, or attack percent on the chest piece based on where you're actually going to be using this champion. For gloves, I do recommend crit rate gloves because, like I said, the damage is noticeable enough. Even if you want to use this champion as a CC role champion, you always want to have 100% crit rate on champions that do have a good potential of providing actual damage for your team. As far as the weapon, helmet, and shield, you want to kind of fill out the rest of the stats based on these 6 pieces we already described to you on this champion. So any missing crit rate, crit damage, and of course speed and accuracy always. If you are finding yourself struggling with survivability, I would look more towards the helmet piece to get that missing HP percent or defense percent. Now, as far as masteries go, this is definitely going to be the recommended mastery tree that I'm going to suggest to you. Using this champion as mostly a debuffer and CC role. If you wanted to go the attack role, you could definitely get rid of Eagle Eye and go on to something like Helm Smasher if you want to push that damage a little more. You can also go down the defensive tree. It probably wouldn't go all the way to the final tier of this mastery tree. However, if you do need more survivability for content, you can definitely go that defense tree and find whichever masteries make the most sense to you, giving her that additional survivability that she may in fact need. Now that we've gone over that, let's go for the stats that I personally gave my Countess Lix here, so you can kind of get the overall idea on how I built her. We have 456 accuracy, 244 speed, 126 crit damage, over 100% crit rate, 3,200 attack, 34,000 health, 1,900 defense. And as we can see here, I don't have masteries on this champion because I was able to hit all of the stats I did need without actually having to give this champion any masteries at all. So this comes to the question, where can we actually be using Countess Lix? Where is she going to be most helpful? As we probably saw, the first thing we're going to do is probably going to look at her in dungeons, see what she actually has to offer in dungeons, and I thought what better place to test it than an ice golem run. So what we're going to do for now is we're going to use Deacon, Lydia, Countess, and then Trunda, only 4 champions to kind of highlight what Countess actually can do for your team and how you should probably be aiming to use her with practical use for wave clearing. So obviously we have Deacon is going to go first, reducing that turn meter. Lydia is then going to defense down and weaken, and the first move on auto is going to be the A3 ability, which is going to lock out all of the cooldowns. And as we just saw, it did decrease the cooldown of Deacon and Lydia as well, which is why I do really like that added effect to that A3 ability. Now finally, Trent is going to use this A3, and we did get pretty unlucky there, stunning, no HP burn. We'll throw this on auto, and obviously once again I'm using 4 champions instead of 5 champions. If you were able to clear this, Countess actually would be using that A2 ability on the next wave, which would line up absolutely perfectly for this content here. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see it because Trunda did get unlucky despite having absolutely no accuracy whatsoever, and she did stun. However, as we just saw, if Countess did in fact use that A2, it would have been absolutely brilliant as far as lowering the turn meter, applying the decreased speed, and she's also doing a decent amount of damage for wave clear here. So I do believe that if you can slot her into any progression you do have, as Trunda kind of misses her target there, which is still a funny bug, it always gets me. Definitely gets me every time. So that is kind of the ideal role that I would recommend for Countess if you want to use her. She's going to be amazing at the crowd control. She does offer a decent support of damage that she can apply to her enemies, so I definitely like that aspect as well. So that, in my opinion, is going to be the best use for this champion as far as where you want to use her in dungeons. Now, one thing I do want to talk about with a little bit of a disclaimer is going to be the prospect of self-debuffing yourself to boost her turn meter. Now, This was something that pretty much anyone who gets this champion would want to try, so let's take a look at it here, and let's see what actually happens when we do self-inflict debuffs on our champion here. So we're going to put a defense down and weaken on our champions from Lydia. We did add Tuck for that effect. Let's go ahead and use the A3 ability here. And now what we want to watch is, will Countess Lix turn meter actually go up if we do apply the A3 from Tuck, which is going to apply debuffs onto our team. As we can see here, her turn meter actually didn't increase. We did see it go up there. However, you would have seen turn meter boost in a text if it was from the skill. That was simply from the turn meter increasing based on Trunda getting a turn and everyone inside this match's turn meter actually going forward. So I cannot say for sure if this is intended to not work with self-applied debuffs, or if it's simply a bug and it's not interacting properly with allies on your team. So this is something to watch as bug fixes come out, champion rebalances, if they do recognize this as some type of bug. Since people will probably be watching this video well past the date of the release, it is very possible that this changes in the future to where Tuck and other champions that do apply debuffs onto themselves will affect Countess Lix passive and actually boost her turn meter. So now that we went over that, one really cool synergy that I did find is Countess Lix with someone like a Bystofus. If anyone doesn't know how Bystofus kit actually works, he does a ton of damage if the champion has a block cooldown on it already. Now, Countess Lix is obviously one of the prime candidates for this spot as she has an AoE. It does last for 2 turns, so there definitely is a lot of synergy to be had here. Alright, so let's see how this synergy actually does work out for these champions. We do have an immunity set on Zargala, which is definitely unfortunate. We did hit block cooldown with our Hegemon, which is definitely a good start here. Let's reduce their turn meter, try to apply defense down on just 2 of the champions here. Now block cooldown, we can only apply it to Skull Crown, so let's give that a shot. And then finally, we're going to be looking at our Bystofus to actually use his hard-hitting ability, which is in fact going to be Shadow Strike here to see if we can seal the deal here and kill off the remaining champions. Okay, so that's fine. All we have to do is not get nuked by this. Skull Crown is going to be game, set, match. Also, there is a point to mention that there is a weaken there. Not 100% chance, it is, I believe, 50% chance on that A1, so you definitely do have to consider that, which is why I didn't take the mastery that increases the chance of landing debuffs by an additional 5%. Let's go ahead and try to find another team that we can actually test this out. Let's go ahead and hit Yamato Shima here. And we won't use the same exact team here. We will use, who should we use instead? It's likely we're going to cut them off because most people aren't speed tuned just with a single speed booster here. Let's go ahead and use Tuck because honestly, why not? We're going to hit this. So they're going to go first. Perfect. As mentioned, they're definitely not speed tuned. Let's apply that defense down on as many as we can. We got it on everybody, which is perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and block cooldowns. Once again, landed on everybody. We do have to make sure that Bystofus doesn't die, and it's possible with decreased speed that they cut me off, so we're not going to risk it. We're going to go ahead and heal our champion here. Get rid of a little bit of the threat off of our Bystofus. Only the Arbiter is hitting him, which is perfect. Now let's use Shadow Strike and look at the synergy. Defense down, doing a massive amount of damage based on block cooldowns actually being on the enemy team from Countess Lix. So really cool here. This is one set of awesome synergy that I was able to find. Let me know in the comments, have you found any other pairs with Countess Lix that you did really enjoy? Now, one thing I didn't talk about and I can talk about briefly is going to be the partner synergy between Countess Lix and Astralon. So as we can see here, there is a second partner bonus passive called Unredeemed on Countess Lix. Removes 1 random debuff from Astralon and this champion at the start of each turn. This is good, however, 1 random debuff might not always be enough. This is kind of a takeaway from Sifi and Rhodos. However, Rhodos gets all of his debuff cleansed as soon as it gets a turn, as opposed to 1. It's definitely not bad by any means. However, it is a very strange partner bonus since the 1 debuff that could be left on could be the most detrimental to the actual champion. So let's head on over to Astralon and look at his partner bonus. It's actually going to be from the A1 ability, which once again I'm not a huge fan of. Countess Lix will team up and join the attack if they are on the same team. Countess Lix will in fact use her default skill, so in a sense this is offering a defense down and weaken. The defense down from Hellbinder, which is Astralon's A1, getting that weaken from Countess Lix A1 as well. can definitely have pretty cool synergy. However, obviously this champion is going to use the A2 and A3 first, finally going to use the A1. And as we can see, Countess Lix will not team up on this attack if this skill is used when counter-attacking or teaming up with another champion, meaning ally attack. So there's really no way to get this happening until Astral has in fact used his A2 or A3, unless you're going to manual, and probably most people aren't going to be manualing. And you could say something like, what about Clan Boss? It does have a defense down and weaken. For a speed team, I can see it. For a tuned Clan Boss team, based on Countess Lix gaining turn meter on debuffs, there's always going to be a stun debuff unless you're always providing block debuff. There are going to be other debuffs from that second AoE, depending on affinity or void being those weak poisons. So you're going to have to consider that if you want to use them for Clan Boss. Do I think it's the worst pair? Probably not. It does give you, like I said, the two strong debuffs you do need for Clan Boss, being defense down and weaken, but I probably wouldn't recommend it as a optimal Clan Boss build, since both of these champions have been found to be extremely strong outside of the Clan Boss role. Alright guys, that's going to be it for my champion spotlight on Countess Lix. Let me know, what do you guys think? Obviously, anything that applies to dungeons is also going to apply for Doom Tower, the CC, the wave clearing, the nice sustained damage that she does have for her kit. Let me know what you guys think. What do you also think about this new event they have? I think it's quite interesting how they kind of gave us the chance to pull 150 shards, which is definitely well under the pity system, giving us Countess Lix as a reward. Give me your feedback on that as well, because I am pretty curious as to how the community is reacting to this new event. Do you like it? Would you like to see something change about it? Besides, obviously, the requirement of shards being less. Should they only stick with new champions when they do this? So definitely give me your feedback. And don't forget, guys, if you do enjoy this content, like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my next video, and I will see you all in the next upload.